This was literally the saddest thing I've ever watched. You clearly hate women. I'm sure you have a good reason, don't we all? But you're literally assuming that every woman is some sort of feminazi extremist psychopath. I see what's going on with BuzzFeed, but no woman actually cares or wonders about any of the questions asked. In no way is this an accurate representation of feminism or feminist women, and you're just yelling at a screen about things maybe 5% of women care or think about with the argument of not all men.
So you're criticizing me for using the not all men argument. First of all, I really don't understand why feminists consider that to be a bad argument, considering, it's fucking true that not all men think the same way. Second, you literally just used the exact same argument when you accused me of assuming that every woman is some sort of feminazi extremist psychopath. If it's wrong for me to say not all men, why is it okay for you to argue the exact same way? Third, nowhere in this video did I say anything about all women being one way or all men being another way. And in fact, I went out of my way to clarify that I don't believe that. Actually, that was the entire fucking point of the video you posted this comment on. That video was made in response to a video by BuzzFeed which presented 36 blanket condemnations of men which were based on erroneous assumptions and factually wrong ideas about things like the wage gap and rape culture.
Any rational human being knows that not all men think about sex all day. Not all men are rapists. Not all men are assholes or bad people. Not all men hate women. Who the fuck are the feminists you associate with?
The fucking BuzzFeed video I made this video in response to is making those broad generalizations about men. Whether or not you want to admit it, there are feminists out there who actually believe that shit, and they exist in large enough numbers that the very channel that uploaded that video has millions of subscribers. I also gave you numerous examples of feminists promoting misandric ideas based on the same generalizations in the video, many of them being large organizations or people in positions of power, so don't try to tell me these people are an insignificant minority.
Feminism is about equality of the sexes, which benefits both men and women.
This is a claim that I hear all the time, and yet I never see feminists live up to this claim. As much as I see feminists go on about how they're all about equality, I never see them address the issues of men's high rate of suicide, the fact that fewer and fewer boys are graduating high school, the fact that boys are more likely to die from child abuse, or any of that. But it's not merely the fact that I personally have not observed feminists actually practice when they preach when they say feminism is about equality, which leads me to believe that this is a full of shit statement. Here's the thing, whether you're talking about radical feminists or what moderates would call true feminism, you're still talking about an ideology which is entirely predicated upon the notion that there exists a patriarchy which gives advantages to men in Western society. This idea is not only patently false, as evidenced by the fact that men make up the majority of the homeless population, domestic violence against men isn't taken seriously at all, and a woman can sue a man for child support after raping him, among other things, but this idea, which is central to all feminist theory, is designed to make the male gender out to be the enemy. On one hand, feminists will claim that feminism is about advocating equality between the genders when it suits the rhetoric to put on a facade of egalitarianism and claim the moral high ground, but on the other hand, they will gladly vilify men as oppressors and proprietors of so-called rape culture. It's incongruous to argue that your movement is one for equality between the genders when your movement is entirely centered around the idea that one gender is exclusively to blame for all the other genders' problems, that one gender has all of the advantages and is the direct cause of all the disadvantages suffered by the other, and that one gender needs to rise up and overthrow the other in order to achieve parity. And whether or not you want to admit it, that is what you believe, as you demonstrate later in this very comment. These are mutually incompatible concepts, and it is this incongruity which is the failure at the very core of feminism and why I believe feminism to be a fundamentally broken ideology. So even if you're not one of the feminists I'm always hearing about protesting men's issues conferences, promoting segregation, advocating censorship, or trying to change rape laws so that only men can be charged, you are still a part of a full of shit ideology based entirely around catering to your insecurities and victim complex by placing the blame for all of your problems on the boogeyman named patriarchy, which you believe was made by men to benefit men and subjugate women. This is not a straw man argument. You literally believe that men are actively conspiring to subjugate women. That's the core of feminist theory, and that's what you have to believe to call yourself a feminist. If you actually did believe in gender equality as a goal to be strived for without also believing that the inequalities that exist are unilaterally slated in favor of men in a system designed by men, then you wouldn't call yourself a feminist. You would call yourself an egalitarian or a humanist, but you don't because you need an enemy, and that enemy is men.
Women have been systemically oppressed, and we are still coming back from it. It is still hard to be a woman in a man's world, and it should be equal, and if you disagree, I mean, hey, I don't blame you if I give my left tit to be a man to have the upper hand, but stop being bitter and recognize that you don't want to lose that privilege.
It's at this point that it becomes obvious that you didn't watch the whole video because the entire last 3 minutes were devoted to debunking this tired and idiotic argument. Please, can somebody explain to me exactly how men are privileged in this society in which men are more likely to be murdered by both men and women, in the society in which there are no domestic violence shelters for men despite the fact that men make up at least 40% of domestic violence victims, in the society in which only men have to sign up for selective service in order to get a driver's license or to qualify for federal aid, in the society in which men are 11 times more likely to die on the job, in the society in which men account for 80% of suicides, in the society in which men have basically no reproductive rights at all, and so on. What exactly are the disadvantages of being a woman in our society? That you might get raped, never mind the fact that men make up the majority of rape victims if prison rapes are included, and men are far more likely to be victims of violence in general? That you make less money on average, never mind the fact that men work more overtime, take off fewer vacation and sick days, or more likely to ask for raises and retire at a later age? That you get harassed on the internet, never mind the fact that with the exception of stalking and sexual harassment, men experience more online harassment overall? That you might be made to feel insecure about your bulbous, Twinkie-filled fat rolls, never mind the fact that men are expected to be tall, muscular, and have a full head of hair as well as a lot of money? That you might be exposed to media which puts a damsel in distress for a man to rescue and claim as a prize, never mind the fact that the male hero is risking his life for the sake of a woman just because that's what men are supposed to do, and if they don't, then they're cowards and deserve to be shunned? And I find it laughable when I hear about feminists doing shit like banning men from certain places on campuses, actively fighting against shared custody, undermining the presumption of innocence and shit like that, and then proceed to claim that men who speak out against feminism are just afraid of having their privilege taken away. Fuck off.
I don't know any girl who doesn't get catcalled or been verbally or otherwise harassed by S-men.
Whenever I hear about feminists complaining about how oppressed women are, if they don't default to the typical rhetoric about the wage gap or rape culture or body image issues, they complain about stupid and trivial shit like women being underrepresented in movies and getting catcalled when they walk down the street. Just be glad you're statistically less likely to be beaten down and robbed while you're walking down the street, and check your privilege.
I don't know even one woman who hasn't experienced being slut-shamed or degraded by a man who thinks he can decide what's appropriate for a woman to do or not do.
You say that like you think men don't get the same shit from women. Is there even a single man watching this video who could honestly say that they have never had a woman criticize or make fun of them for how they look? Or better yet, is there any man watching this video who hasn't had a woman question his masculinity to try to get him to do something for her? By the way, as I pointed out in the very video you posted this comment on, the majority of slut-shaming is done by women.
No one cares if you watch romantic comedies, they're all awful, no one thinks all you talk about is tits, and no one cares if you indeed do.
The people who made the BuzzFeed video seem to disagree.
I don't think feminism equals inability to be funny. I offend people with my sense of humor constantly. I'm violently politically incorrect. I think rape jokes are hilarious, even if it doesn't represent my real views on something I can laugh at it. Like, don't generalize if you don't like being generalized, and don't bring it upon yourself to define feminism as something so insanely ridiculous and inaccurate. Find me a feminist who's ever brought these issues or questions up.
The fucking feminists in the BuzzFeed video brought it up.
These actors don't count as reliable sources.
Oh, the no true Scotsman argument.
Literally grow up and drop the hatred. Not all women are insane, psychotic, humorless idiots.
I never said they were. Maybe you should try actually watching the video before you post an unlettered, rambling block of text.
This is exactly why we need feminism. Ridiculous, misogynistic crap like this.
And this is exactly why we need anti-feminism. People who conflate criticism of feminism with misogyny, like you.